just doesn't do it in the window. So I think we're going live right now. My son will be checking my audio to make sure everything is good to go. But once that is checked, then we can. And I'm trying to check from another account. I need like a producer for this stuff, man.
Well, just make more money and hire one.
Yeah, right. So I
that solves most of the problems, right?
I got reached out to one time by someone that was wanting to edit videos. They've kind of stopped. I mean, it's big business now that I've like looked around at some of the podcasters. Some people are making like bank on a lot of this stuff. I'm not doing that. But they were like, I did reach out to them about like how much for an edit, and they were like, $1,000, and I was like, I don't make that money. I don't make that kind of money on my podcast. Yeah. I'd like to.
I'd have to do 2 episodes or more just to pay for one.
Right? Yeah, and that's what I mean. My editing process too is streamlined, so I can get it done in. They're like, what would you be? I was like, $8 an hour. What's the minimum wage? Because like my process is streamlined that I can get an episode edited and out the door in under an hour. So
yeah, I mean, and at that point, it doesn't make a lot of sense. Like, I mean, if you had more like ad reads and mid rolls and stuff like that, sure, maybe. But for this live kind of stuff, there's not a ton of things. It's just more cut out the nonsense, clean it up a little bit, make some adjustments. What are you using? Are you Premiere?
No, I'm not even that, man. I'm using all open source, Audacity and OpenBS. Like I'd like to explore potentially doing some other different softwares just to see if that can improve my workflow. But
yeah, if you're gonna look at anything, I would definitely recommend DaVinci Resolve.
Okay.
Probably everything you're doing you can do with the free version, but the paid version is like, I think, a one-time fee of like $3.99. Like, it's not subscription based or anything like that. Of course, you're not doing color grading and things like that. So most of yours is just really more focused on the audio output kind of probably is a priority.
Oh, I'm glad I checked that. I have music playing in my dude. That's the other thing too, is I have like two machines. So I bought a new machine because my old one was a Windows 10 that I couldn't upgrade because of the hardware. And so I bought a new machine, but I was like, gosh, I've got so much set, like all my podcasting recordings and everything's on this other machine. I'm so lazy with that kind of stuff, man. And I was just like, man, I want to get a Switch. I've wanted like a Switch anyway. So I kind of have like a recording of course, I've ended up using my new one for it just because it's better.
Yeah.
In general.
Well, I ended up breaking down and buying a MacBook Pro. Not too long ago.
And I have a MacBook. I probably should just stream from that. But I also play video games and other stuff too. So it was
like, So like I don't play a lot of it. So my primary is I've got a big desktop with capture. Yeah. So like I don't play a lot of it. So my primary like the editing console if I wanted to do it. Yeah. So video switcher, the whole works. Got to like sit on Teams calls all day if I wanted to do it. Yeah. So video switcher. Damn good looking Teams calls. Like sit on Teams calls all day. But yeah, like you pretty much gotta when your margins are so low like this, it's like figuring out how to maximize, because it's the less time you're spending on it, and that's not that you want to like be lazy, but it's just there again, it's time is the less time. If you're not making a ton of money, it's not that you want to money be lazy. You don't want to spend there again 4 hours editing a 45 minute money on a podcast that you're 4 hours money editing a 45 minute money on a podcast.
How do you get podcast monetized?
On a podcast. Well, start with $1 billion. Say you're doing a podcast, and then you'll be a millionaire. Start with $1 billion. Say you're doing a podcast, and then you'll be a millionaire. I mean, I'm sure there's some like formula, whatever. A lot of it is it's in the same vein of the way you get monetized on YouTube, through advertisement, AdSense, all of that stuff. Like the same thing applies. Some of this, I think some of the like audio streaming platforms and stuff have some of the equivalent things, but it's even though, if it's an audio, predominantly audio first kind of product, I would still treat it as much as possible with like it's a YouTube channel first and cater to the algorithm and all of that stuff. But I mean, who knows? This is I have about 6 YouTube channels with a combined viewership of about 12. So,
oh really?
Don't take my word. Don't take my word for it. Viewership of about 12.
I feel that I did a couple
oh really?
Don't take my word.
I wasn't trying to get a big following. I feel one of them is how can
don't take my word.
I wasn't trying to get a big following. And the other one that I have up is Introduction to the FAA Part 107 course.
Oh.
So yeah, with those two together, I probably got like 25 views, maybe.
Yeah, so there's a channel out there that it was mine. It was tied to an email address I no longer have access to and haven't had for years. And occasionally I'll stumble across. I'll have to go and search for my own video because it's the only way I can find it. And it's like randomly gets like a couple hundred views a year, and I'm like, it was literally just put up there because this was like really before you could even have like private videos,
right?
And stuff, and so it's like, yeah, just weird things. I'm like, what went wrong in your algorithm to show you that video?
Yeah. All right. So I think we're good on the sound check. I'm still figuring out some of this live stuff. I will tell you, one of my benefits that I have is I am actually putting up content on a weekly basis, and that has boosted my channel to, it was up to 69. I should notice it's down to 68. So I don't know if I lost subscriber. I think at one point I thought I was at 99, but I think they killed a lot of bots. And so it probably took it down, but 68 subscribers is still good.
You're at 69 again.
Yeah,
I didn't realize there was you had a YouTube channel. So
yeah, so I mean,
let me apologize for being delayed. And so as you get closer to the 1 million subscriber mark, I will unfollow and then subscribe back to try to be the 1 million too.
just get all the milestones. 69 is a good number too. You didn't get 6-7 though. And I am using 6-7 as much as possible.
I'm going to end this webcast right now.
I'm doing it just to like I'm the old parent now that can make it bad again, and I'm just like, this thing needs to die. So I am doing everything possible to kill it, including mess with my kids. I've had some other opportunities anytime I get a chance to bring it up, I bring it up. But yeah, I mean,
your objective is to make it so like just so over the top nauseating that it becomes uncool.
Mm-hmm. I feel like I'm succeeding.
I'm here for it.
Yeah,
I'm here for it.
Yep. Yeah, that's exactly why I'm doing it. Yeah, subscribers are a tough thing. I mean, I have also feed my podcast into YouTube because I talked to some people and they were like, hey, I don't listen on podcasts. I go to YouTube. And once I was doing my research too, YouTube is the 3rd biggest search engine in the world. It's like Google, I think Yandex, and then YouTube is the next biggest search engine. So it's like, I need to have my content up there. And that's really helped me grow my audience too there.
So much of the podcasts that I consume of recently, it's a YouTube first experience for me. So for example, Neil deGrasse Tyson's Star Talk is one of my favorite ones, and stuff. And it's like I've listened to it through like Spotify or whatever and stuff in the past, but it's like it was difficult. It was less engaged. But I'll still like put it on my computer in the background. I'm not watching it so much, but I'll flip over to it every once in a while or something. But yeah, like I'm consuming more media through YouTube of all types.
Yeah, no, I mean, and I think it's a great spot for learning. I just don't want to do it because the video editing involved with it. I mean, that's probably worth paying that $1,000 for someone to edit it. Like if I'm at 1 million subscribers, I'm probably making enough money at that point to be able to have that editor that can do all that kind of stuff. But I need to get to that point first before I'm really
and honestly, like I don't think $1,000 is necessarily unreasonable. But also if it's one of those things is like you're doing something where you have a sponsor that's paying you $8,000 for the episode.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
But if you're struggling to get $8 for the episode, it doesn't make sense. And
yeah. Yep. I had something I was going to mention before we get right into it, because I have written, the other thing I'm working on is trying to do an actual intro for this kind of stuff. I mean, this is kind of all just me figuring it out. But I mean,
that's how we do it.
Yep. Well, I like this live podcast because I do want to try to build kind of the community a little bit, because we have a Discord channel now. I appreciate you subscribing to it. That's also something I don't do very well, is tell people to subscribe to the YouTube channel. I also think podcasting, to me, like everyone's doing YouTube, I want to be kind of that reverse person that's just audio only for the most part, so that, you know, it's kind of a unique thing in that regard, where we're kind of, and I think podcasting, people are still listening to it. In fact, you know, when I started it was pretty popular, and I quit for 5 years and I came back and it's even more and more popular. So I just see the continued growth here. I'm hoping at some point that this is something I could focus on entirely, which means I could do more stuff. But as you know, Tim, with Ethos Labs, right, it's gotta start somewhere, build all that stuff up, get to a point where
realistic. It has to be organic.
Yep. And that's
like,
part of
just because you're resource constrained. Like it's okay. I can either go spend a lot of time making this video or whatever, and you know, and that could be beneficial, or it's like I got to do something else. And like, you know, you've got a family, I've got a family, like all of that stuff plays, you know, luckily this is my job. And so I've got a little bit more freedom that, but even then, just there's the backlog of stuff. I was like, man, I really should be doing this, but I'm like, I don't know when I would do it.
Yep. And that's part of it, is I'm also I've been burned out before, and I'm really trying to avoid that again this time. So taking my time and not, you know, kind of doing what I can. Like you said, I think to me, it's more of a 6-7 year plan, and not something that I'm expecting immediate success and, you know, be living off of it. And I still do, like, my role now doing security awareness aligns with a lot of this stuff just organically, that I can kind of double dip a little bit, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I'm still trying to figure out, for a publicly traded company, how me having my own company and bringing content into my company works out. I haven't done that yet. But if I build something that's generalized for internal security awareness, like a newsletter, I have like a monthly newsletter for both the security team and security that I tell people, grab and use internally. It's a free resource for you to go grab, because I'm already doing it internally for my stuff, and I want to do more of that kind of content.
Yeah.
And that helps grow too. Like regular posting of stuff. Like that's podcast 101. If you want to grow your audience, you got to do it weekly, and you got to do it consistently. So,
well, and that's really the thing with all kind of forms of media. It doesn't matter what your cadence is, as long as you stick to that cadence. You know, some of the YouTube channels that I watch, their cadence is 2 videos a week. Some you go like the bigger ones, like Mark Rober. It's 1 video a month, but every video is 10 million views on day 1. Like whatever that cadence is, keeping it. It's just that consistency. It's like, I mean, there's something to be said, you know, for faking it till you make it. Like, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm going to keep doing this until we figure out the next little thing and the next little thing and the next little thing, and it'll continuously get better. But you got to start now.
Yeah, no, absolutely great. All right, let's get into the intro here. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Exploring Information Security Live podcast recording. Whether you're joining us virtually or watching this recording on YouTube after the fact, we are thrilled to have you for what promises to be an absolute blast. Tonight, we're strapping in and launching into an area of security that is critical, complex, and frankly, completely out of this world. AI wrote this, by the way. We are talking about the final frontier of security, space security. For decades, we focused on securing networks, data centers, and devices right here on Earth, but today the critical infrastructure that runs our world, from GPS to global communication, is orbiting miles above us, and it's facing unique and rapidly escalating threats. To guide us through this new threat landscape, we have a truly out-of-this-world guest. He's an experienced offensive security analyst, the CEO and founder of ETHOS Labs, LLC, and the creator of the groundbreaking TEMPEST CubeSat, an intentionally vulnerable satellite designed specifically to teach us how to hack and, more importantly, how to defend systems in orbit. Please help me welcome Tim Fowler. Woo! I need to add some like soundboards here.
I really do appreciate in the show notes that it says thunderous applause.
And
so the problem is it did kind of set it up, you know. Yeah, golf clap. That's again. It depends on the you know what your perspective is on whether it's worth the thunderous applause or golf clap. But thanks for having me, man.
Yeah. So first question: have you seen the new Hail Mary trailer?
or Project Hail Mary.
Yeah, Project Hail Mary.
Okay, so I have not seen the trailer.
Okay.
But I've read the book 3 times.
Oh my gosh.
Yep.
Have you watched any of the trailers, or because they just had their second one released? Oh my gosh, it looks so good, man. And
me and my wife, we watch some TV in the evenings and stuff like that. But I feel like I'm really, really far away from like anything that's happened. Like I know that Wicked is coming out like this weekend because of my wife, and that's it. Like that's it. So I have not seen any of the trailers for Project Hail Mary, but I'll take that as a homework assignment.
Yeah,
because I thoroughly love the books, like in such a way that, like, again, like I read it twice. Like, just I finished it and then started it again, because it's like this is such a good, interesting story. Big fan of everything that the author's written and stuff. Yeah, I mean, the Martian, Artemis.
Yep.
Did you?
I've read all this stuff. I've read all of his stuff.
Yeah,
man.
So for me, Andy Weir, Daniel Suarez, Ben Mesrick, those are kind of the ones that, like, I just gravitate. It doesn't matter what they write, I'm gonna read it. And so no, I knew they were making a movie, but I have not seen the previews. So
it looks
for
good.
my wife, that's what we're doing tonight.
Yep. If The Martian is any indication, they'll do a good job with it, because The Martian was, I didn't particularly care for the ending, because I thought it diverted from the book way too much and put like a Hollywood spin on it. I also thought it was built for the IMAX 3D experience at the end because of the whole tour. Spoiler alerts, by the way. If you haven't seen The Martian, I'm sorry.
If you haven't seen it at this point, it's kind of on you.
I have it on Blu-ray, right? That was probably the last Blu-ray DVD, Blu-ray I bought. Because you can stream everything now, but I wanted to own that still. It's the whole twirling around I was like, this is just a visual thing that they wanted to do at the end of the movie for people in like some sort of IMAX experience, because like, to me, the book did a much more correct job in keeping the roles what they were, right? The commander doesn't jump out there. The commander's like, no, you need to do this, because then she is just trying to make sure everybody's in place, because it's a very calculated thing, and we've got like a very small window to make this happen. And so I just thought they diverted from the book a little bit too much, but otherwise it was a good movie.
I agree, and it's like, this is one of the things that I've talked about this before. Like, for me, when I approach a movie based off of a book, I mentally kind of deregister the two. That thematically they're going to be the same, and that's it. So whether it was Lord of the Rings or The Hobbit, the one that really, really frustrated me was Ready Player One.
Okay. I've heard a lot of people say that, yeah.
I like the Ready Player One movie. I really did. But it is not Ready Player One. Like, it is so far away from the book. And things like that. And so, and I get it. I mean, like, the audiobook of The Martian is like, what, 15 hours, 16 hours, something like that. You're not going to condense that to 2.5 hours without taking some liberties. But I will say, the spinning that you're talking about at the end was incredible in IMAX.
That's what I'm saying. It was built for the IMAX experience, and I get it.
You could just tell that it was like, this is purpose done for cinema. And not even necessarily storytelling. It was just the experience within the cinema.
Yep, which I get. I mean, that's kind of what they need to do with a lot of that stuff, anyway. So back to it. What's going on with space security, man? Like, we haven't talked in a while. We started at the beginning of this year. I imagine there's been some progression for you in the company. So
there has. Actually, I saw somebody make a post just a little bit ago on LinkedIn about, like, we're going to start seeing the, like, 2026 predictions and all of this stuff. And a lot of it has not changed. And next, it's not going to, spoiler alert, it's not going to change next year either. We're just slowly, gradually getting better. It's going to take time. It's going to take, there's a lot of forces at play, not just in space. We got gravity and all that stuff, but there's a lot of organizational inertia that are still hesitant to this concept of space cybersecurity, because we haven't had to do it historically, because we got to live under this veil of obscurity or technological supremacy that made it unattainable for someone else, even our adversary. But that's just gone. like that veil of obscurity, or what we thought, the technological supremacy, it doesn't exist at the most basic levels. And so as sure as you get into some of the higher end technology, so of course, but the problem is we've got stuff that's on orbit since the 70s that where security was not taken into consideration. It was purely operational. But looking back, basically over the year, it's definitely becoming a bigger priority within a lot of entities, both focused within the DoD. I've had the pleasure of speaking with a lot of people in the defense industry and stuff. This is like, yeah, we're paying attention, especially with President Trump's Golden Dome initiative and all of what that's going to require from a cyber perspective, because there's going to be a huge cyber element to that. So a lot of the thing that I think the industry as a whole has been asking itself this year is like, how do we do this effectively? How do we do it right? Because it's not just a bolt-on thing, as we know. Like you've worked for organizations, it's like, oh yeah, we're just going to buy this blinky light box and all of our cybersecurity problems are going to go away. That's not really true. And the same thing's for space. And the problem with space is we can't just take the solution that we have here on terrestrial systems and throw it up into space. Like, it doesn't fundamentally work. We need the same concepts, the same fundamental capabilities and stuff, but we have to rebuild it, re-engineer it for operation in space things. And so I think that's what we're going to continue to see. Again, this is a crawl, walk, run thing. You're going to have certain organizations that are going a lot faster than others. Knock on wood, we still haven't had our colonial pipeline, or some people call it the space Pearl Harbor moment or whatever. I pray that doesn't happen. But if it does, that's when people are truly going to get serious about this stuff. That being said, this year has definitely been about growth within the overall industry. I've been paying attention to looking at like job postings and stuff. 2023, 2024, very few cyber related job postings. Most of them are like in cyber assurance, GRC stuff within space organizations and stuff. Definitely noticed an uptick in like security engineering roles and stuff within space companies this year. And I think that's going to continue as we move forward.
Yeah. So what's this Golden Dome thing that you're talking about with Trump?
So the Golden Dome, are you familiar with Israel's Iron Dome? It's their missile defense.
No,
okay,
nothing.
So the Iron Dome is the Israeli Defense Forces missile detection and mitigation system. And basically it's a multi-tiered thing where they've got different types of missiles, different types of capabilities and stuff, where as missiles are launched and rockets are launched towards them, they're able to basically autonomously deal with these. It's a very, very capable system. It's not completely impervious and stuff, but Golden Dome is President Trump's desire to take that capability and put it in space. So having actually space-based capabilities for detecting, reacting, and mitigating incoming missiles. So now, this is a complicated topic in terms of, how do you mitigate against a missile from space? Well, you've got to have some kind of other capability. So now we're talking about effectively putting weapons in space. Gets a little bit hairy and stuff, but fundamentally we're talking about having a space-based reliance as one of our primary defense capabilities from a reaction, both kind of as a deterrent, but also from a reactionary approach. So basically we're talking SDI, Star Wars from the Reagan years. It's back.
Yeah, I was actually thinking of James Bond and what's that space one where they go into space? There's I can't remember the name of the James Bond.
I am probably one of the worst people to ask a James Bond question to. I think I've seen like 4.
That's fair.
And they're probably all the newer ones.
Yeah, that's fair.
So I think I've seen all the Daniel Craig ones. I know there was Sean Connery did a couple. I've seen bits and pieces of it. I'll have to take your word for it.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. Well, like you've already said the Star Wars from the Reagan. It's probably a better reference than me just using some sort of pop culture reference. But no, that's interesting.
You have a diverse crowd, so
yeah
maybe they both landed.
Yeah. I might have a younger crowd that's like they're James Bond, the other ones. Daniel Craig.
Well, even Star Wars is. They're like, oh, the movie.
Yeah,
no.
Wow. Everyone knows Star Wars, man. There's so much. Like, all my kids are into Star Wars. That's just a great brand.
But if you ask them about Star Wars, they would have no idea what you're talking about.
Oh, you're talking about with the Reagan stuff.
I'm talking about SDI. Yeah.
So I guess, what are some of the biggest challenges? I thought to your point about kind of just it. So it sounds like things are kind of, I don't know if I want to say treading water, but they're kind of slowly starting to come up. It sounds like there's not this big, like you said, Pearl Harbor or big event. I don't know if there's gonna be one, because I
hope not.
Yeah, I recently, it was a podcast I listened to for cybersecurity news, and they were talking about, or a newsletter, and it was like, oh yeah, we can, there's unencrypted traffic going between bases and satellites, and I was like, I've already talked to Tim about this. This to me is not new.
Yeah, well, so there was an article done on Wired.com, just maybe a month and a half ago or something, where a bunch of, I think, college students or whatever basically set up a software-defined radio and antennas, like listen to a bunch of stuff for a very long period of time. And there's this hullabaloo, it's like, military communications and cell phone text messages and all this other stuff. It all comes down to the fact that none of that was encrypted. Like, that's it. Like, it's not some grand hack or anything like that. Again, will not discount the work that they did, because they did a great job of like cataloging all of it and stuff. But at the end of the day, it was because it was encrypted communications. And that's one of the things that we have to fix, is that, I can't give you a definitive percentage on the number of, signals that are encrypted versus unencrypted and stuff. But I would be surprised if we're even approaching 50%, because there's risk involved with encryption and because of the challenges of operating in space itself. And so, but to go back, like, I don't necessarily feel like we're treading water. But we're not, we're bobbing up and down. We're going kind of with the tides. Right now we're not moving forward, we're not moving backwards, but we're also not drowning.
Is that kind of treading water? I'm just
well, but the industry, I mean, but there's not a lot of movement. Like, we're not actually swimming. It's just more like we're kind of literally riding the waves, sitting in our inner tubes and seeing what's
just because floating down the river. They do that. Actually,
because like,
nice.
Here's the thing. Okay, so I talked about Colonial Pipeline. And for your listeners that aren't really familiar with what that means or whatever, there was a compromise of Colonial Pipeline. I want to say it was 2017.
Yeah. No, I think it's been even more. You're talking about the fuel hack, right?
Yeah. The gas pipelines.
Yeah, that was more recent. I don't even think that was
2020. I don't remember exactly the date, but anyway, it's within the last, let's say, 8 years, just to cover our bases. But that was the moment that the entire, like, kind of ICS SCADA world went, Now, part of that was because things like the EPA came in and said, we're laying down the hammer. You got to start doing this. Okay. Not generally a big fan of just regulations, especially from the government. I'm pro good regulations. But fundamentally, it's going to take something like that for the entire industry to go, yep, we're going to do this. And we've seen that from all types of situations. I mean, it's like, why does PCI exist? Well, to protect the liability of the payment card brands. Like, that's really what it is. And so until something within the industry as a whole goes, hey, we want to make sure that we're reducing this liability, whether it's us, whether it's you downstream, and we're going to start enforcing these kind of rules and regulations. Until then, it's just the wild, wild west, and you can do whatever you want to.
Well, and that's why I'm saying I think I have a hard time with that because so you talk about the colonial pipeline that affected people's gas purchasing, and then you also have, like you mentioned, PCI that messes with people's credit cards, right? Information. What, from a space security standpoint, impacts a majority of people? I don't know if there's
all right. Go. Yeah. So, how about everything you just talked about? So, one of the most prevalent services that we use as human beings, at least here in first world countries and stuff like that, is GPS, but not in the way you think about it. Not in how do I get from point A to point B. Okay, that's a very important function of stuff, but more specifically, the pipelines, the power grid, the financial systems that we all rely on have one primary weakness, and that is they all rely on GPS timing for synchronization. If I am able to disrupt the GPS timing, I can impact your ability to get your Starbucks tomorrow. I can also make you late to work by rerouting your traffic, introducing artificial traffic.
Yeah.
I can make it so that you don't have power when you get home, because especially here in America, we don't have a power generation problem. We can generate all the power we need. We don't have the ability to store the power long term. So we have a just-in-time grid. Well, if I can desynchronize part of the grid, so it's like, oh, it's the heavy period right now, or better yet, hey, it's 5 o'clock, but I'm going to say it's like 3 o'clock in the morning. So we ramp down the production, but the demand's at an all-time high. Now you start getting rolling blackouts, all because of this data coming from space.
But who's managing the GPS then? Is that individual private companies, or is this a governmental thing?
So this is managed within the U.S. government. There's a couple of different entities that are overall involved in it, both from the satellite side, and all of that stuff. But understand, there's other systems out there. There's Galileo, there's Beidou, there's GLONASS. They're all GNSS systems. Global navigation satellite systems that are effectively doing the same thing, but it ultimately comes down to the government and for being able to do this. But we've seen, I think it was 2012, the London Stock Exchange went down because of a localized GPS jamming attack.
Really?
They weren't even targeted.
So this is already.
In fact, the U.S. Navy essentially performed a DDoS on San Diego because they were testing out this jamming capability, and it took ATMs and pharmacies and all this other stuff offline for a couple of days. And it took them like 3 or 4 days to figure out that it was actually the Navy causing the problem.
The Navy.
That is not a knock on the Navy.
Yeah,
right?
no. I mean, I was in the Navy for 6 years.
Like that,
so, yeah.
Yeah. And so like the reality is your entire way of life is predicated on data that is being either generated or traversing space right now.
Okay. Well,
okay.
Yeah.
I mean, think about it. Have you ever pulled up gotten a computer off the shelf or a laptop and opened it up and dusted it off and tried to get on the internet, and you can't because the system clock's wrong? Have you ever seen that?
I haven't seen that, but it's
okay.
been a while since I've had to do anything.
I mean, even like SSL warnings.
Yeah.
Okay. I can arbitrarily create SSL, like untrusted certificates, by manipulating the clock.
Right.
Because it's literally checking system time versus the time on the stuff.
Yep.
This is all. So imagine if all of your TLS sessions and certificates were no longer invalid because your system couldn't actually synchronize with the actual rest of the grid. And we've got things that like NTP and all this other stuff, but it all gets back. It's all fundamentally backed by our GPS systems.
Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah, that's a valid, and I can see, why we need to be concerned with that. So
yeah, I mean, and then you look at just the rate of the communication channels. I mean, so for example, take T-Mobile with their direct to cell partnership with Starlink. Okay, you don't have to have a cell tower any longer. If you have that service, you can literally make a call from a satellite to whoever on the face of the planet and stuff. more and more our data is moving skyward because it gives us better coverage. It gives us some better redundancy. There's all of these kind of economic factors as to why we want to do this. But the underlying thing is like it's the space is the extension of the internet now, and we have to treat it like that.
Yeah.
Because you can't say that this video call isn't actually traversing a satellite link.
Yeah. No, I can see where we continue to move kind of up to space, right? Because that is, like you said, I think that's kind of the next step, right? We're going to continue to go up there, so I could see this becoming more and more of a problem. Well, and I imagine they've done a lot of things from a business standpoint versus from a security standpoint.
Yeah, I mean, Microsoft is wanting to put data centers in orbit. I mean, all of the major providers are testing this capability and stuff. Especially once we get to lunar operations, all of this stuff is just we kind of take it for granted right now. It's like, oh, it's just up there and stuff, without actually understanding that if things are going wrong up there, it's going to go really wrong here. And understanding where you could introduce those problems, whether it's here on terra firma or if it's starting in space, understanding the attack vectors and all of those things, that's where we're really at right now, is figuring out, like, hey, this has been hypothetical for so long, but we're no longer in science fiction, we're in reality. What is actually possible? And there are organizations and entities on both sides of the equation that are testing and pushing the boundary of what's actually possible, both from an offensive and a defensive perspective.
Yep. Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, that's all interesting too. I mean, I have a little bit of, I guess, experience, not necessarily with satellites entirely, but, being in the Navy, I was an electronics technician because I didn't have IT or even cybersecurity back when I was in. And, but we had to go out to the field and learn how to use comms, right? So signal theory and things like that, and sending stuff. And I will say, even that stuff within the military, it was encrypted. Like we had devices that allowed us to encrypt those communications. So I'm not worried about like necessarily the military, but companies on the other hand, right? They're going to do what's the lowest cost to,
Well, and understand, when we're talking about encryption in space systems, we're only addressing encryption only addresses the confidentiality. So if we want to look at it from the CII triad, confidentiality, integrity, and availability, it only deals with confidentiality. Okay. One of the things that I show in some of my classes, like that I can capture an encrypted signal and I can also replay that, and then the satellite will process it. Why? Because I haven't addressed the integrity pieces of it. And this is where, again, everything, we always talk about defense in depth and layers and stuff like that. We have to do this again. Because, but there are military communications that are completely wide open. And they have been since the 70s. Now, some people are like, well, do we have the ability to fix it? It's like, yeah, but we also currently have Russian soldiers communicating over the U.S. military satellites. Why would we turn that off? We're not using it. Fundamentally, so that there is some stuff to gain from it, and stuff. But yeah, like it's not just the you're talking about like the military stuff. The government side of stuff, DoD, things like that, doesn't concern me as much as it does the rapid pace of commercialization. And I'm pro commercialization. I'm here for it, but I'm here for us to do it the right way. And just because I can put something into space doesn't mean that I should. And there again, it's like, because I can, but yeah. Did I do it intelligently? Did I do it with the right controls, the right procedures in place? Because that encrypted signal that you're talking about, like from the military side, it doesn't mean jack if I compromise the network at the ground level. Mm-hmm. If I steal your, FIPS 143 or 4 compliant encryption module and plug it in, doesn't matter. It's what are we doing? It's about having a holistic approach. And we've been much more narrow focused on very specific things. And again, most of it's operational, and operating in space is extremely difficult. And so that is on the spectrum. of, operations to security, the decisions are going to be made closer to operations.
Yeah.
So as professionals, what do we do? How do we, I have a question for you. How do we move the decisions closer to security on the spectrum?
Leadership buy-in.
That's a technical way, but if you want to think about it from a visual perspective, move security closer to operations.
Yes. Yeah.
Don't close that spectrum so that it's ingrained and stuff. But yeah, fundamentally leadership.
Well, they have to make that a priority to get those people, right? So I mean, and that's what I've seen. There's a lot of just repeating history going on here, right? Like the internet is kind of the first go around of this, and people just doing stuff to get things up, and then we're going, well, you guys need certificates to encrypt your traffic. It sounds a lot like that.
So I mean, look at ARPANET. Look at what ARPANET was.
Yeah.
And you can see very similar concepts still flying today, because they fundamentally came out of the same ethos. They came out of the same concepts and the same needs. And so, I mean, fundamentally, if we started treating space for what it is, it's just an extension of the internet, things would fundamentally get better. Because while there are no shortages, well, depending on who you ask, there's a massive shortage of cybersecurity jobs. But there's no shortage of the need for cybersecurity within the context of the internet. We need it everywhere.
Well,
okay.
And that's
there's all these solutions, but we haven't we literally have. I mean, the largest entity in space is a private company in SpaceX. And what is their number one product? Internet service.
I thought it was launching cars into space, but that's a joke.
No. Well, so
you said product, not gimmick.
yeah. And did I say SpaceX or Starlink? Starlink is owned by SpaceX.
Yeah.
Starlink is, I mean, SpaceX owns Starlink, so it's all one. But like they're like that's the biggest entity in terms of number of satellites, mass, everything, every measurable thing. SpaceX and Starlink wins.
Yep. Well,
and their product is an extension of the internet.
Yep. Well, but they're also, again, for the business, because we've talked like recently these scam compounds have been taken down recently, thankfully, but they were using Starlink, and a lot of people were pointing out, it's like, you guys could shut this off, but that's business for them. They're making money off of that stuff. So I'm not convinced that, companies.
Well, I mean, but they're again, so ISPs could also stop every attacker and hacker that's ever connected to the internet.
We're seeing that now. There's since ISPs are probably a good example, because our ISP infrastructure is just awful. I mean, that's why the Chinese and the Russians are just all up in our stuff right now. Well, Vault Typhoon, Salt Typhoon, they're getting up all in our stuff, and they're not running into any speed bumps or roadblocks to get in.
So let me ask you this: based off that assessment, which I believe is 100% accurate, what do you think their capability of penetrating and potentially infiltrating our space infrastructure?
Oh, no. Yeah, easy.
It's
easy.
We've already got it. We have a history of it. We don't have enough time to go through it. But they've been doing it for years.
Yep.
The Chinese, one of their things, at least from the space side, in my understanding, is like they like to posture in a way like they will get in and do nothing.
Mm-hmm.
They just sit there, observe,
just wait.
And stuff. Like once like they're there. And it's just this huge posturing thing. So yeah, looking at the telco situation within America is a great kind of analogy to where we're at. Also looking at ICS and OT, SCADA, stuff like that about 12, 15 years ago.
Yep.
That's where space is right now.
Yeah, I like the idea of getting security closer to operational stuff. Like, how do you do that though? Because honestly, like I've worked in, speaking of things kind of repeating themselves, I've worked in security teams where we worked really well with the other groups, but then there's ones that we don't work really well. I have experience working with developers, and my leadership hired me to go sit with the development team. I think that's a great model. I don't see enough teams.
It's the best model, in my opinion.
Yeah,
I maintain. So, having my background in offensive security, penetration testing, that type of stuff, in my experience, one of the best ways to proactively invest in the security of your company, especially if you're dealing with like software development and stuff like that, is to put the person that's doing the testing beside the person that's doing the thing, that's writing the software. Yeah. The even better thing, that if you have the time, teach the person that's writing the bad software how to attack their own software.
Yes.
And they magically stop doing it.
Yes.
It just stop. I've seen it so many times, time and time again, is you put a pen tester inside the development scrum and things start changing. And then you have those testers be like, hey, here's what we found. I'm going to let you do this. I'm going to let you see how bad this is. And all of a sudden things start getting fixed. Now, again, is that going to solve all the problems? No. That takes time, that takes money, that takes budget, that takes leadership. A lot of things that a lot of organizations don't have. But if I had my way, there would be a security tester inside of every development team, inside of every product that an organization has being made. And their job is not necessarily to test everything. I mean, obviously they want to do that, but also to get the people around them thinking, to get them to be able to do this themselves. But that's why we have jobs.
Yeah,
because we're not there yet.
I think, and I think you're in a good field. I've told people, I think there's a lot of different stuff. I feel like it's just kind of, I think 10, 12 years ago, man, it was like kind of fairly simple, but it's just kind of proliferated, and it's just now even getting even more widespread. I mean, everyone's starting to niche a little bit too, or people are niching. It's not just a little bit. People are niching. Space security, though, I think is definitely, as far as like where the human race is going. And again, we've kind of already talked about it, right? It's kind of a repeating history with some of this stuff.
It is, but also it's the culmination of everything we've already done. Mm-hmm. And what I mean by that is, like, if you look at, so like if you're going to purchase a penetration test, okay, well, what type of test are you actually buying? Because there's, like, that's a vague term, penetration test. Is it cloud? Is it network? Is it web application? Is it, like fat application? Is it wireless? Is it physical? And all of those converge on this thing we call space, because we're all like, it's literally all of the things. So while space in itself is a niche, and I completely agree with that, and it's going to become more generic, it is because we're utilizing all of these little areas that did become niche, because I mean, I remember, 10 years ago, it's like, the cloud was starting to become a thing and everything. And again, cloud solves all our problems. It's just waiting on it to solve one. But, this is the type of stuff. And so, this idea of having all these little niches are actually fundamentally a good thing.
Yeah.
When we can put them together. And this is one of the reasons why I'm so excited about space from a security perspective, is because it's like, hey, are you good at this? You're good at cloud? Come over here. Oh, you're good at networks? Come over here. Cool. Oh, you're an RF engineer? Cool. Come over here. Let's, like, there's a place for all of us. The industry has a need for all of these very special, various skill sets, because this is truly one of the few convergence of all of it, from network, OT, ICS, because I mean, you're literally talking ICS in space. Like,
yep.
Doesn't get more remote than that.
Development. Yep. So if someone wants to get into space security, where should they begin?
So there's a couple of good options out there. The first thing I would say is check your local security conferences. There is a fantastic group called the Aerospace Village. They're a nonprofit organization. You'll see them a lot at like DEF CON, the big events like DEF CON and stuff, but they have been doing an awesome job of popping up at various like B-sides and various things of that nature, they've got some labs and stuff that you can go hands-on, you can talk to people. That's a really easy approach, because you're probably already doing that, especially if you're a cybersecurity professional. So be on the lookout for that. There's a couple of awesome books that are out there. One of them is Space Cybersecurity by Dr. Jacob Oakley. There's a new one that's coming out from some gentlemen out of Vision Space in Europe. Had a huge pleasure of working with them for the Aerospace Village DEF CON CTF this past year and stuff. It's basically how to hack a satellite, looking at the mostly in the terms of the protocols and the vulnerabilities within the software stacks and various things of that nature. There's myself and Ethos Labs. We offer hands-on training for being able to do this. There's some fantastic conferences that are kind of more geared towards the overall space industry and stuff. It's typically not going to be as fun as something like a B-sides or whatever. That tends to be a little more businessy of space and stuff like that, but they're getting better. There is Hack Space Con down in Florida in May that I'll probably be going back to this year. Had a pleasure of teaching and speaking down there 2 years ago. There's a lot of resources that are out there. There's some different training opportunities. If you've got big funding from your employer or whatever, go check out Jacob Oakley and Michael Butler's Space Hacking Odyssey at Black Hat. We've got our training. I think Angelina Savoy is still doing some stuff. She's got some stuff out there for low cost stuff. There's a lot of resources and stuff. But my thing is just start Googling, man. Like take what you know, whatever your expertise is in security or whatever, and go type it into ChatGPT. I know this. How does it apply to the space industry from a security perspective? And buckle up, because you're about to head down a rabbit hole. And you could be working, researching your way to a new career.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about AI and how, if you're even seeing it impact kind of the space security field outside of general stuff, right? Like you just said, researching, writing stuff, things like that. But are you seeing AI, I guess, within the space security?
So AI is everywhere, and it shouldn't be.
Has anyone started launching AI satellites, or
Oh yeah. I mean, there's AI on orbit right now. It's just understanding what the context of it is. So one of the things that you have to be cognizant of when you're dealing with not just space, but it's definitely more impactful in space, is anything that we put up there from a technological perspective also increases the attack surface. So yeah, cool. We've got this AI-based detection algorithm, stuff like that. Cool. That it's able to learn and do all this cool stuff. Cool. Well, what happens if attacker manipulates the model? Like that model's up there. There's something we can do. It's about but fundamentally there's a huge push for AI solving a lot of problems. I am pro AI in a lot of things. I am pro AI in space, but it's got to be done in the right way. It has to be done intelligently, with normal human intelligence first, understanding the appropriate risk and stuff, because we still have computational limits. We have, we're not putting these massive models, and I mean, there's literally GPUs in space that are able to do some of this stuff. But understanding, my thing with space is it's in AI, one of the ideal applications is anomaly detection. Like it's tailor-made for that type of stuff. But what you do with the output should be done by a human. The decision making should be done through a human. Now, if it's something like trivial, it's like, hey, we're looking and it seems like our satellite's degrading for some reason or whatever. Let's start switching stuff off and all. Sure, you might have an AI do that, but I'd much rather have it alert me that this would be the recommendations than actually make that decision autonomously. Because again, one of the things from an attacking perspective, especially with space, if I can get you to do something even if it's make a choice, I win. Doesn't necessarily mean I compromise a satellite or I compromise a ground station or whatever. If I can impact your normal operations, cause a delay, cause hesitation, cause a thought process, whatever, I win. And so AI in space is definitely one of the, kind of hot topics. It's, it's like, I mean, I don't know, you probably saw RSA, where everything was just AI, and stuff like that. It's kind of getting to the same way, same, stuff. But fundamentally, I haven't seen a good solution as to like, hey, this is how we do it. It's sane. Everything, it's literally is like, yeah, we're just going to launch a bunch of GPUs and say that we have AI, but it's like, okay, why do I need AI on my toaster? Like,
right. Yeah.
I don't, but yeah, is it going to make my toast 20% better? Like what is the, again, this goes back to what is the objective? What are you trying to solve?
Yeah.
And so now there are some applications of AI that I think do make a lot of sense in the future, again, but it needs to augment human capabilities and decision making, not perform those functions, in my opinion. I don't want an artificial intelligence or whatever making the decision that another spacecraft's maneuver was adversarial when it's just malfunctioning.
Yeah. Well, but I don't know. I'm kind of two minds of that. I see what you're saying, but also I don't know that we can rely on humans to make that many decisions, right? Especially with so many other systems using AI, it creates a lot of just, it slows things down. But I'm thinking of one of the, I hate traffic lights. I think they're awful. I think the timing is not set up. I've heard people talk about some of the civil engineers setting them up, and they are not great. I've seen a perfectly good working light, and then all of a sudden it stops working because they made a change to it, right? And you almost get the sense of, oh, well, this person probably lives around here, and they're adjusting it for their use case, right? Whereas I think if you put AI in all these traffic lights, I think it can make traffic move a lot smoother overall. Not just looking at the current stop, but it can like kind of almost brain network. Hey, these cars are coming down here at this speed. I can leave it on for a few seconds and get more, 20% more cars.
No, I agree.
And I think you know where I'm going with this, but this to me is kind of like where space could be the same way, where I don't know what maneuvers it would do, but it could make decisions on certain maneuvers, maybe not everything, right?
It comes down to where we put the guardrails. It's okay to let the AI play in the sandbox as long as it knows and we know that this is the sandbox. And because I agree, like one of the things I think we're so far away from like full self-driving cars and meshing and stuff like that, but I love the idea of just not having to drive as a human being.
I would love that. Oh my God.
Because like it'd be so much more efficient, and then we actually could get rid of a lot of our roads and like turn them back into parks and things like that, and go from a car-centric society. But anyway, mass public transportation would actually help with solve most of that problem. But anyway, but no, I agree with you. And in certain contexts and stuff within space, it does make sense. Again, do I want a human being making a decision for okay, we got to turn this red light on? No, that's all math. And that's the other thing you got to realize. Most of this is just math. And I'm okay with AI doing math. It's more once we get into the more complex things, especially when you're looking, it's like, hey, doing certain activities in space can create a very hostile international incident very quickly. That's the type of stuff that I want to make sure that we're avoiding. Fundamentally. Because let's go back to Golden Dome. Okay. Well, the first step in an early warning detection system is early detection. You don't have human operators staring at a computer screen for 12 hours a day, 2 shifts a day. Nope, nothing's happening. That's all happening through computer vision, through sensor analysis. Okay. And it's happening on the bird, and it's incredibly fast, like insanely fast and stuff. You could some argue that could be that's just an extension. That's just AI. It's really just machine learning. It's just math. It's just doing mathematical computations based off of what's normal and what's not and stuff like that. I don't want a human doing that, but I do want a human to be in the loop to determine whether it was a false positive.
Mm-hmm.
Because if I ask a lot of my defense contractors and military stuff, like, what's worse, a false positive or a false negative? We detected something that didn't exist, or we didn't detect what did exist.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the real answer is we don't rely on a single data point. If you're ever making a decision based off a single data point, you're probably not going to make the right decision. We don't want to create a war game scenario.
Mm-hmm.
And stuff. And so again, this is where it's like, we've got to be careful. There's certain applications where it just makes sense, where if it's just busy work for human beings, automate it.
Yep.
Like, just automate it. Make it as efficient as possible. Whereas if it's something else, especially when it's dealing with life and death, yeah, like let's have a human in the loop. Even if it's just to keep their hand over the red button.
Yep. No, I agree. What's the next exciting thing coming out for Ethos Labs that you're really excited about?
So we've got a lot going on for 2026. And they're all kind of integrated in different levels and stuff like that. So the next big thing that I'm super excited about is going to be, I think this will come first, is going to be a new hardware platform that we're going to be announcing in greater details. I'm calling it fun size right now because it's smaller. And if I was ready to, I've got it sitting on my desk, but I'm not going to tease it right now. But so we're going to have a new hardware kit that's coming out, and in conjunction with that, for basically the entire history, we've only been able to do the hardware classes in person. By going to this new revision and this new some of the modifications and changes that were made, we're going to be able to move the hardware class to on demand. So you will be able to, sometime early 2026, probably middle of January, be actually able to go pay for the class. We'll drop ship you the hardware, you get it, and then you run through the completely guided class and have a really, really cool experience with that. So moving everything over to on demand is kind of that step 2 aspect of it. I actually wasn't planning to do this version of hardware, but it just fell in my lap through somebody sent me an email. It got me thinking. I had already ordered a new version to deal with a really annoying shipping issue. And with the, well, for our auditory listeners, this is not going to be enjoyable for the next few for the next few moments. But I'm holding a 1U CubeSat called Tempest, and there's a couple of there's fundamental design issues with this that I didn't really think of at the time, but now looking back, I'm like, this makes so much sense. So one of the big problems is that the battery for this is in the very center. And I did this to try to maintain the center of mass, because in a real spacecraft, you would absolutely want to do that. For something that's sitting on your desk, it doesn't matter at all. And there's also no physical switch to turn everything off. We just use the remove before flight pin to electrically isolate the circuit, which means I can't really ship these with the batteries in them, because even with the pin in there, there's a chance that it could come out or whatever like that. So I updated the board to include a physical on-off switch. And once those arrived and I was doing some testing, I integrated a different board that was separate into this electrical power board, which eliminated some of the boards that were in there, the complexity, if you will, and ultimately made everything smaller. And I was like, hey, no, smaller in this case is cheaper and easier to manufacture. That's a win for everybody. and it just gives us a lot more capabilities. So that's going to be coming out. Like I said, I'm jokingly calling it fun size right now. I think I'm going to, once we make the announcement, like actually put it out there, like, hey, community, let's give this thing a name, or whatever. But no Ducky McScrooge duck face, or anything like that. But we'll have some fun with that. So with that, we'll be doing on demand stuff. I'm super excited. I'm working with Dave Chronister. I was actually out there at their location just a week or so ago. We're going to be doing some physical or like live classes at their where they're based out of in St. Louis, which is cool to have a kind of a home base now that I can do teaching and stuff without having to travel as much. So we'll definitely be doing that. I think the first one's going to be in February. We're still trying to nail down some of the logistics of that, and so we'll do a couple throughout the years. But I'm also looking at bringing in some of my other colleagues from the industry, different training opportunities and stuff, whether it's like red teaming, penetration testing, cloud, whatever, to be able to bring some really cool training opportunities to the St. Louis area with some world-class talent. And so I'm really, really excited about that. And then we've got something slated for Q4 2026 that it's going to be a bit of a Hail Mary. But if we can pull it off, I think it's going to be really, really cool. And we'll just tease it, right? We're not going to say too much about it right now. But we got a lot, man. It's going to be a fantastic year, because hopefully this is we're going to be bringing out the new hardware model for the hardware classes, again, as like I said, hopefully early January. We'll probably tease those in the next couple of weeks. But there is an actual completely new, from the ground up hardware kit that's going to be just absolutely over the top with all the bells and whistles, things that do not go in educational CubeSats. Let's just put it that way, especially for what it's going to cost. The things that you're going to be able to simulate and replicate from an actual spacecraft are going to be, I'm just going to say it, out of this world.
Love it. Love it. I feel like you've done all your plugs. Did you have anything else you want to plug?
I don't know.
Plug your website for sure.
Yeah, so it's ethoslabs.space. You can find me on LinkedIn, Twitter, Rubix, ROOBIXX. You can also follow ethoslabs.space. There's nothing happening right now, but we will be making an announcement once the on-demand stuff is ready to go. There's going to be a new brand under the Ethos Labs kind of umbrella for holding that. That's going to be, I'm super pumped about it. I've talked to several people, and I think it's going to be the one-stop shop for all things space cybersecurity. So whether it's blog posts, whether it's videos, whether it's actual training courses, various things like that, trying to pull together kind of a consensus repository of this information, so that's the place that you want to start and keep coming back to.
Cool. Love it. All right, Tim, if there's nothing else, thank you for joining me to discuss what's next in space security.
It's been a blast. Thanks for having me, Tim.